Welcome to Alive and Writing, a podcast on troubleshooting life as a writer.
I'm Shatona Havig.
I'm April Heyman.
And I'm C.R. Rowanson. We're here.
We're alive.
We did it!
We're writing.
We can't get it right to save our lives.
Man, our intros are nothing like writing excuses.
No, they're really not. So,
Threw you that segue there.
that was a great segue. Thank you. Clark, shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
Please don't.
Okay, I will.
Oh, good. Especially our summers.
I know, especially because they're hot.
His wife might kill us.
I know his wife's gonna kill
Hot,
me.
sweaty, and miserable?
Yeah, exactly that too.
We're off to a great start today, folks.
I get the win.
Oh my goodness.
So today...
Our topic is comparison.
But not to summer days. Please. Yeah.
But not to summer days. I do want to talk about what the difference is between competition and comparison, because I think there is a difference.
Significant difference.
Significant difference.
And I sounded quite a bit like a snake there.
You did, but that's okay.
I don't follow, so go on.
Oh, okay. So for me, competition is more of a contest or a goal. So you're head to head in a race. Who can publish the most books? Who can get the most words out today? Who has the best ideas? To me, that's competition.
A competition can be positive, but it has a negative connotation.
Thank you. That's true. Comparison is more like an insight. Am I writing like this person? Is their writing better than mine? How can I be as good a writer as that person?
Which sometimes is, again, positive and others is negative.
Yes, it just depends on how you do the comparison, I think.
Right.
So it sounds like I'm not a competitive person. I just always compare myself very harshly to others.
You could. If you're not trying to beat them at, how many stories have I published this year?
Because I don't. Like riding, cross-country, pole vaulting in high school, it was never about being better than other people. I didn't want to beat other people. It was always, they are so much better than me.
Yes, that would be a comparison.
That's definitely comparison.
Okay, noted.
See? So now we're all done.
That was it. That was
That's
the
it.
episode.
About as long as the intro.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Okay, maybe there's a little bit more to it than that. So, how do you use comparison as a learning tool?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because you can learn a lot from comparison. I can see how someone else does something, realize that they are doing it in a better way than my way. And so how can I learn from that, take from that what I need without turning it into a competition?
That's exactly what I like to do, except just add in a couple extra layers of self-flagellation and, just rude language to myself.
That's because you're a horror writer.
Sure.
So you enjoy those things, oddly enough.
Sorry. No.
Not usually to myself. Anyway.
I think to do that in a positive way would be to read heavily in the genre that you enjoy writing in.
Right, and that's what I was... I think I was trying to mention, is you can use comparison as a kind of style guide. If there are people you really, really like, you can read a lot of their stuff, and that can help inform your own style.
Yes. And it can also, where it doesn't go the way you would want it to go, that same comparison can show you where you want to be very different. It doesn't have to show you how you want to be like someone. Comparing can show you where you want to be different.
Oh, that can show you your niche is kind of what you're saying.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because we tend to think of comparing ourselves to others as a bad thing.
It can be good.
But I think if you flip it like that, comparison can actually be used as a tool rather as flagellation, as Clark likes to put it.
Which, by the way, that means abuse. Just don't get any wrong ideas in your head.
Someone look up
I'm
the dictionary
afraid of
quick.
what that means. I'm not even going to ask.
Something I wanted to mention, because I'm still touting this as long as I can, I went on the Writing Excuses cruise last year. Yay!
He's going to use this all season.
Are you
Forever.
kidding? For the next 15 years.
Until
never
I go
gonna hear
again, and then it will be that I went twice.
Hey,
Point
next
is-
time we're going with you.
Yeah,
The
that's
point
right.
is, Mary Robinette Kowal had a really good statement. I don't know if she was quoting something else or not. I suppose I could consult Dr. Google and find out. But what she said is it's not fair to compare your first draft to somebody else's final draft. It's not even fair to compare your first draft to your own final draft.
No, it's not. And even your final draft compared to someone else's first draft, if your final draft is your very first book and their first draft is their 50th, that's still not even a remotely similar comparison.
That's true. I actually have to catch myself doing that with Shatona, only because she's been writing so much longer than I have.
Oh, you too?
Yeah, I know. We have some serious comparison issues over here.
And I did not know this.
It's a comparable problem.
It is. Anyway.
I got a pity laugh.
I did get a pity laugh.
It was a pitiful laugh, all right.
So with the comparison, what I have to stop myself from, and it goes back to Clark's quote, is that I have not been writing nearly as long as Shatona. So my beginning of my writing career cannot look like her well-established career because we're on two totally different timelines. So she has a very mature writing style and mine is still beginning. And I have to remember that. It's very hard to do that, though.
I have found that beginning writers, and this is going to sound incredibly arrogant, I'm sorry, but I have found that beginning writers that are just starting to publish often feel very like they've almost failed because they don't have the initial sales that I have. They don't have the following that I have. They don't have the launch team just going crazy to do stuff that I have. Well, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've established that. You have to establish it. And I feel bad because I'm like, no, are you kidding me? Did you see that review? That is an awesome review. Grab the review. When you get a bad review and you're like, I'm like, wait, did you not see the 50 horrible reviews I have on that one thing? It's okay. But I do see new authors that I work with have this, it's not having the same reception right off the bat. Well, it's your first book. It's your second book. It's your third book. This is my 60th.
So I guess what we're getting at here is be realistic. Like that's what April and I have to do a lot. Is it's really easy for us to watch Shatona go at 100 miles an hour and getting all of this stuff done, doing multiple books a year, whereas I have been writing, revising the same book for multiple years now.
And this is my full-time job, just saying.
And it's not mine. So it's not realistic for me to compare like that. No. Doesn't stop me from doing it, but it's not realistic.
And so now I have another way that I need to beat them over the heads when I see them. I'll remember this. Okay. But there's also another thing. I don't usually have a comparison problem. And the reason that I don't is I was trained not to. My parents did not allow me to compare myself to others. I was not allowed to care what other people think about stuff unless they were in some sort of authority over me because they didn't want that peer pressure. Mm-hmm. And comparison does kind of go hand in hand with peer pressure. And the poor peers don't even know that they're doing the pressuring.
That's true.
Yeah, most definitely.
So anyway, so I don't tend to have the comparison problems, but it's only because it was beaten out of me as a kid.
That's a good point. So there you go. Do that to your kids.
Okay.
So I don't know. A lot of times I feel there's sort of a root cause to why you're comparing yourself to someone or something. I don't know. What do you think, April?
I think that can be true to a certain extent. I have some insecurity about my writing. Is it funny enough? Is the mystery well enough established? Have I put enough clues in there? Shatona does a really good job about her character development's really good. She does some really great funny scenes. So is it going to be something like that? Or is it going to fall completely flat?
My last one just did, and I had to go back in and add. Just remember that. I got done with it, and I was like, yeah, it's as good as the last one.
Yeah, but now it's funny.
But now it's better. And like with Clark, it wasn't funny. He read it. He said, this is what's wrong, and now it's funny. So you fix it. But everybody doesn't finish. See, you're comparing your first draft to my final work.
Yeah.
See how I did that?
Tying it all back.
Sorry.
Now, and addressing this comparison problem can be a really important issue because the more I look at it, I think this is one of the cornerstone factors in a lot of the anxiety that I deal with. I actually talked about this a little bit on Facebook, where I had a breakthrough in martial arts where I was able to let go and stop being upset with myself for not being where I thought I should be. And it was a huge relief. And all of a sudden, I was able to do things better. It was easier to handle stuff. I wasn't freaking out as much. And I need to start trying to do that in other parts of my life. Just stop comparing and be okay with where you're at.
Ooh, you know what? This reminds me of Teddy Roosevelt. He has a quote that says, "Comparison is the thief of joy."
That's very true. I would have to agree with that.
I mean, not that it has to be. I mean, obviously, you can use it well, but as a general rule, I would agree with him.
Moderation, you know.
Yeah. Who was that, Aristotle?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
I think that
Lincoln?
I think that we have to give ourselves some forgiveness and some slack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
slack.
important. And I know, especially listening to a lot of writing podcasts and talking to a lot of writers, this is a problem that a lot of us have, which is why we're talking about it in the first place. There's even a thing called imposter syndrome, which is the opposite of, well, it's not quite the opposite. Right now, April and I are comparing ourselves to people who are further ahead than us. Imposter syndrome starts happening when you start getting successful, but you don't feel you stand up to the comparisons other people are making. And you don't feel that you deserve any of the attention or things that you have got. I mean, it's part of the same thing. Anyway, point is, I see it a lot with other writers, and that's why we wanted to talk about it.
So we actually have a really interesting spotlight today. We came up with a completely, totally unique and surprise thing. It will help you measure and figure out how to measure up as a person and how you've grown over the years. And so just click that really cool link down in the thing and you will see our incredible spotlight.
Fair enough. So, April, what else you got to say?
So, if I'm not supposed to be comparing,
I like that word.
New
That's
verb.
cool.
it's a new verb. If I'm not supposed to be comparing myself to others who are ahead of me, who am I supposed to be comparing myself to?
I don't know.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and that's it.
Well, but do you have to be comparing yourself to someone, or can you be comparing yourself to something? Does it have to be a person? If you see where your writing is today, and you know where you want it to be, then you would be comparing what you have now with where you want it, so that you know where you have to grow and where you have to change and what you have to accomplish and what you have to learn, right?
Yeah, but if you're not there already, how do you know you get to that point? Because if you're constantly comparing yourself, what's the...
Well, okay, so if the point is I want to have a fluid writing style that engages readers and makes them excited for the next book, then when you write the second book and you realize that it is much more fluid, well, you've checked one off. And when you start getting emails saying, when's the next one coming out? Well, you've checked, you know what I mean? You compare it by results.
So, it sounds, April, are you talking about trying to use comparison to verify that you're improving? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
I think so. I don't know if it is necessarily a healthy thing to continue to compare yourself to writers who are already in their mid-career. They've already been published, right? Only to find your niche or your writing style and kind of differentiate yourself from everybody else. But how do you know when you get to that point? I mean, there's not exactly like a rubric for writers that says you've hit XYZ. You get 100 points and move on.
You create your own rubric.
When you find that, let me know.
I know.
I don't understand why you wouldn't create your own rubric. You say, this is my goal.
Yeah, but how do you know you've hit that goal? You say you want to be a fluid writer. That's great, but how do you know you get to that point?
So define fluidity for yourself.
Well, and
what does that mean?
This is another interesting point. I was talking with you guys about this earlier, where for me, the comparison never ends. Is I will get a little bit better at something, but I never really stop to appreciate it because there's automatically other things that I want to be better at. So it's really easy for me to lose track of when I am making success or if I'm making success. I don't know. I think that's what April's talking about.
Well, then you compare yourself to where you were.
Oh my gosh.
You were doing that earlier, Clark.
Do you mean go back and read the really bad stuff you wrote at the very beginning? The cringy stuff, as my kids call it?
Yes, I do that actually. And then sometimes you do what I'm going to do with my first published thing, which is absolutely horrible, is you rewrite it.
Huh.
I never thought of that.
You know, I can make that a better book today. I can make it, I can do so much more with it. I'm going to. It's getting a new cover. It's getting the same title, but it's getting all the things that it was missing.
So I have to say that I have to do a plug for like indie authoring, because that is probably the only people who could do that.
Yeah, I would agree.
That is very true.
It's one of the reasons why I chose indie. I've done both.
Right.
And it's so far beyond preferring indie that it's not even funny. I really thought that I would surprise myself, and I didn't.
So something else that I'm slowly coming to learn, there's been a lot of, I feel like I've been making a lot of good progress in dealing with some of my anxiety and stuff like that. It's going to be a lifelong process. So like I had said before, just realizing that I need to be realistic and I need to acknowledge that I have been making progress. Those are all really important things. Something else that has been helping me lately is trying to essentially get that part of my brain to shut up. When it starts comparing and going on and on, just being able to stop and say, you know what? You don't matter because I'm doing the best I can, and I'm never not going to do the best I can.
And that's good enough. Doing your best is good enough.
So yeah, I'm good, bad. I'm the guy with the pen.
Right?
That's true. But you have to realize if you are doing some excessive or unfair comparisons to yourself to others, it might actually be a sign that there's something more wrong than you think there is. It's not just you're comparing. There's
You
that word
really
again.
like it.
I love this word, comparison. Can I use it again?
Wrong in terms of style, or are you saying wrong as in maybe you may have an anxiety issue or something that you may need help with? Like
Yeah.
both? Yes?
Well, more like the anxiety or more mental health issue.
Okay,
On
yeah.
that end of the spectrum. Not saying that, as writers we have mental health problems. Some of us do.
Yes. Hear, hear.
You'd almost have to be a writer, but
That is a really good point,
I take
though.
issue.
she would because she's crazy.
I am a mental health issue.
There is umbrage in the room, and Shatona has taken it.
But you had said something that I think relates to this, April. You had talked about attitude.
Yes.
How you said something about spotting where you want to improve. What were you talking about with that?
Right. You need a spot where you want to improve rather than pointing out where you're weak. So you need to look at your strengths rather than your weaknesses and build on those and understand that the weaknesses are just weaknesses and they're not a bad thing. It's just a way to improve.
They're defining.
So
They're not defining. They don't define who you are.
They do not define who you are.
I do want to backtrack a little bit because this is something that we're supposed to be talking about. It's something I want to talk a lot about, and I'm glad that you brought up the mental health issues. So if you do really look at this and you may need some outside perspective, you probably need outside perspective with a counselor or psychologist to really help you identify that. But there's nothing wrong with that. No, and it's part of who you are in dealing with that is going to make things so much easier and so much better as you start to make progress on that.
I think this would be a healthier country, both mentally and physically, if people would just do that. I need help. I need someone to give me perspective. I need someone to help me work through things that I'm unable to work through myself. And so I go and I get that help. If this country would do that, I think we would be both mentally and physically healthier.
Yeah.
And with that, we're going to wrap up. So this time around, we want you to identify something that's easy for you to do now, but was really hard for you to do a year ago. And go ahead and let us know what that was down in the comments.
All right, this has been Alive in Writing. Sometimes that's all you've got, but it's all you really need. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.